I'll tell you guys a little bit about me. My name is Bill Moore. I'm one of the admins of the Facebook group. Melissa is my wife. She's the other admin. And together, she and I have a bunch of years in this business, about 80 something. I've ran hot dog carts and food trailers. I've had as many as 2 hot dog carts and a food trailer at the same time. I've run many restaurants, as has Melissa. Between the two of us, we've done just about every fast food restaurant that there is. And we actually met in a fast food restaurant a long time ago. So we're the typical restaurant story you might hear, restaurant romance. So tonight we're going to go over the break-even point. And that is a very important number to know. And just like the little scale shows you on the screen, the break-even point is when you've not made a profit, but you also don't have a loss. You are exactly even. So all the expenses are paid. And that's the most important number that you need to know. It's not profit, because profit is step number 2. Step number 1 is breaking even. So we can't take the second step till we've taken the first step. So let's learn how to do a break even. Just like the little scale here shows, again, all the expenses are paid by all the sales that have come into that point. That's all break even is. And a great food operator has to know exactly how much money is needed to pay for all the bills, and that's including paying for yourself. This always comes as a shock to people when I say you can actually pay yourself, but you got to know what that number is before you ever leave your driveway. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I've got a goal, and a goal's awesome, but do you know if that goal pays all the bills or not? Because if you don't know for sure if it's paying all the bills, guess what? You still could be losing money. So there is a mathematical formula. It's really boring, but I'm going to share that formula with you. It is you take your total expenses. Those are divided by 100% minus the total variable percentage, and that gives you your break even. And this is how you do it in any kind of a food service establishment. And I'll go over exactly how that works. So a fixed expense, if you don't know what that is, a fixed expense rarely or never changes. So you want to think about things like your cell phone bill, your insurance, your commissary. Technically, your gasoline and propane probably don't change very much. So all of those would be fixed expenses. Your salary, if you choose to pay yourself a salary, would be a fixed expense because it doesn't change from week to week. Now, you can see in the graph here, the fixed expenses are a dollar amount because they remain the same. So as your sales climb, the percentage impact on your profit and loss statement for the fixed expenses declines. So right there in the middle where they cross, you end up being on the profit side. But we have left out one element, and that element is the variable cost, things like your food cost, your repair and maintenance costs, because those are variable. If you're not open for business, you're not using any food to sell. So there is no food cost. If you're not open for business, you can't tear up pieces of equipment. So there's no repair and maintenance expenses. So there are a lot of budgets that are expressed as a percentage. We all talk about food costs, but there's many others. Your repair and maintenance would be expressed as a percentage. Your marketing budget would be expressed as a percentage. Office supplies like the thermal paper, if you use that in a printer. Your guest checks. All of those are office supplies. Cleaning supplies. Those are all expressed as a budget because, again, if you're not open for sales, you're not consuming the dish soap, for instance. So that dollar amount doesn't go up. So we express it as a variable expense, as a percentage. So with all 3 elements, you see the red line is fixed expense percentage goes down as sales go up. The variable percentages, however, remain the same. So as the sales go up, the dollar amount also goes up, which means the percentage stays the same. So whether you do $1 million a year in sales, or you only do $100 a year in sales, if your food costs goal is 25% and you manage that number properly, You're only using 25% of whatever number the sales are. So the food cost is a whole different presentation. So we won't talk about how to manage it, but you got to understand that once you establish that budget, you need to hit it. So your variable expenses stay the same. So again, right here where everything crosses, that's the break-even point. So as the sales increase, this becomes your profit. So the more your sales increase, the more profit you make. Because again, the fixed expenses percentage keeps going down and down and down. So I'm going to jump into a spreadsheet now. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a second so I can change the presentation, and we'll go over the spreadsheet, and we'll go into detail on every fixed cost and every variable cost. All right, so give this a second for it to load up. All right, this says that everybody can see this. So what you're looking at now is that same boring old formula, which is the break even equals your fixed cost in dollars divided by 100% minus the variable percentage, and that yields your break even point. So this spreadsheet is designed to help you do this. I'll make a copy of this available in the file section. You guys can download it and you can use it. So you're going to go to the section that says Ops Interview, and you're going to answer all these questions. And there's just a handful of them. These will help start our budgeting process. So the first question you got to figure out is how many days a year you're going to be open. This is so important that you're realistic. And that's what the instructions say here on the right-hand side. You're going to be impacted by weather. So don't say, I'm going to be open 365 days a year, because I'm going to tell you, you're not. You're going to be closed because of weather. If you live in the South, you're going to have hurricanes. If you live in the North, you're going to have snow. There will be things that cause you to close. So be realistic. So for example, if you're going to be open 4 days a week, 4 times 52 is 208 days. Most likely you're not going to be open all 208. So let's assume that some of them it's going to rain. It's going to be some weather issues. So we're going to be open 200 days a year. Total months you're going to be selling. You're going to sell all year round, 12 months, but you could do it seasonally. If you're only going to be open 6 months, then put 6 months. The average number of days you're going to be open per week. I already said 4 for this example, so you can put 4. You can do 3, you can do 2, you can do 1. The sheet will work no matter what you put in there, as long as it's a proper number. And that's what we got to be, is realistic. Prep and closing hours. This is called indirect labor because we're not directly taking care of a guest, but we still have to do prep work. We have to cut onions and tomatoes and bake bread. Whatever your prep work is has to be done. And then you got to clean up at the end of the day. So what you're looking for is the number of people you're going to be paying to do this. If you're a solo operation, you're going to leave this empty. But if you are paying someone to do this work, how many hours a day are they doing it? Are they coming in an hour before you open and staying an hour after you close? That's what you're looking at, the total time. So let's say that you and one other person need to be there to open and close your trailer. So we'll say 1 hour each. So 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening. So that's 2 hours total you're paying someone else. Again, we're not counting your labor. We'll get to that. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you work for free. The hours that you're going to be open for service. This means you are taking care of your guests at this point. You're not prepping and you're not cleaning up. So if you're going to be open from 11 to 3 and take care of people, that's a total of 4 hours. So we'll put 4 hours. You can put whatever makes sense to you. And if you're going to be open different amounts a day, different amount of hours on different days, then you can certainly do an average. So if we be open, say 4 hours on Friday and 12 hours on Saturday, you can average that to 8, which is, because you had a total of 16 hours. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Because it doesn't matter how many hours are being worked on the individual days. All right, the minimum staffing per hour for service. So we already got somebody opening and we got somebody closing that we're paying. So that means most likely they're staying with us the whole day. But you could, if you're really busy, have a second person come in. And they could be there. Again, this is minimum staffing for the entire time you're open for service. So let's say that you are busy enough to merit having 2 people every single hour that you're open. But you're going to send that one person home at the end of the day when you close, and just you and the other person are doing the closing activity. So this employee, this extra employee, is only working when you're open for service. So we're going to put 2, and that would be, as soon as I hit it, there we go. So 2, that would be the one person's working with you all day long, and then the second person only there during service. How much are you paying those folks an hour? I recommend that you pay everybody the exact same amount. And I know, oh my goodness, it means that your cashier's making the exact same amount as the person cooking. Here's why. As soon as you do a pay differential, you don't have a team anymore. You got somebody that's saying, ain't my job. I don't get paid to do that. You hire people to work in your food truck. They all get paid the same amount, because I can promise you they are all as equally valuable to you as a business owner. Try to do without one of them. And then you'll see how important they really are. So pay everybody the same. Don't worry about, well, the cashier don't have much work to do. If you have a cashier that's not friendly, you ain't making no money. If you have a cook that's slow as molasses, you ain't making no money. So you pay people equally, so they will do a good job for you, and they can't use that excuse of, it ain't my job. So pick a wage. I recommend that you pay people whatever a sit-down restaurant in your town pays a line cook. And I'm not talking the high-end restaurant that serves lobster all day long. I'm talking Chili's or Applebee's, fast casual, something where they're going to pay their employees a little bit better. And that's what you're going to pay your team, because your team's also getting tips. The next line here is how much payroll taxes as an hour expense. So you'll need to kind of do a little bit of math and figure that out. But let's say that each hour is going to cost us an additional $3 in taxes and all the other kind of things we got to pay. Guest check average. This is what you expect one human being when they walk up to your business to be spending. I'm not talking about a family of 4 on a ticket. This is not a ticket average. This is a average per guest. So if every human being that walks up is going to be worth $20 to you, then you put $20. So for this example, let's just say we have a $15 meal that we expect people to buy. So a main item, a side, and a drink. We're not going to assume that we're going to sell a dessert to everybody, and we're not going to assume that they are buying the most expensive thing on the menu. We want to be realistic. So every human being that comes up to our food trailer, we want $15 out of their billfold or their purse. Projected percentage of people that are using a credit card. And that can be from 1 to 100. If you're one of those folks that don't want to deal with cash and you're just going to go all credit card, then you put 100. If you're somebody that's going to not be dictatorial and let people decide how they're going to pay you, rather than you saying, you're going to pay me with a credit card, then you put down whatever you expect that percentage to be. So we'll start at 60. You may have more, you may have less, but we'll got to pick a number to make this sheet work. Your per transaction processing fee. If you're using Square, that's a whopping 10 cents every time you swipe a card. And then Square is going to charge you 2.6% of the grand total of the ticket. If you've gone through any of my presentations on food cost, you understand that we're already accounting for this when we do our food cost. So we're not worried about doing the cash discount nonsense and all those other schemes. Because again, we're not being dictatorial and telling people how they're going to pay us. We want them to come back. And we're not going to charge them more because they're paying with a credit card. We're not going to pretend like the cash discount is actually saving them any money, because it's not. because you have to raise the prices anyway. So we're just treating everybody the same. So put in whatever your credit card processing is. Now we get into a little bit more details. If you have a tow vehicle, it means you got a trailer. Then you're going to put the gasoline for that. If you have a food truck, then you don't have to worry with some of the details here, but you still have something that's moving your vehicle around. It's going somewhere. If you do gasoline, click on gasoline. Number of miles per gallon that your vehicle gets under towing conditions. So if you have a truck and you're towing a 20-foot trailer, you might only get 10 miles to the gallon. So you put 10 miles to the gallon. You want to be realistic again. Average daily miles driven. And this would include going to the commissary. This would include going shopping. This would include going to wherever you end up setting up for the day. So get that round total trip. And we're only worried about one day. The math will be done by the spreadsheet on the number of days in the week and all that. So let's say that you have to drive about 30 miles round trip to cover all of your shopping and commissary and so forth. Then you're going to put the cost of fuel in your area. Today, well, I didn't go out today. What was gas today? $3.08. In our area, it is $3.08. So you put whatever your area is, and you can actually anticipate an increase or a decrease if you want to do that to get a better feel for the whole year. But we'll just put in 308 for right now. Put in your generator. Is it gasoline or diesel or even propane? I don't recommend propane because you lose the ability to spell apparently right there. And then you also lose the ability of it being full power. But if you have propane, then we'll figure it up down here. Put in the number of gallons that your tank on the generator holds. You're going to put in the hours that your generator will run on 1 gallon. And it's usually going to be on the box somewhere. It'll tell you at 50% load, it'll run so many hours. So let's say that your generator is going to run 6 hours at the load that you normally have. And then again, the cost for your gasoline. Now we're going to do propane. All of your equipment that uses propane will be listed as the number of BTUs that particular piece of equipment uses per hour. So you're going to list that. So you go add up your fryer and your grill. If you have a hot water tank that's propane powered, you're going to do the same thing for it. If you have a generator, you're going to do the same thing there. Get the total number of BTUs. So let's say you just got one fryer and one flat top that only has 2 burners. So let's say you're using about 200,000 BTUs. And then whatever the price of propane is in your area, put that in. The spreadsheet will do the math for you. So now we've done the interview part. Okay, done with that one. Now we're going into the details on exactly what you have spent or are going to be spending. Starting with your business permits. And I have a whole bunch of space there for the different permits because different areas of the country have more permitting issues and more permitting needs than other parts of the world, other parts of the country. So just in general, you may have a business license. Now, this is not your food license. This is a generic, you have the right to do business in this county license. So we have one in our area. You may need a fire permit or a fire inspection. Most likely it's going to be annual, so that means you need to have the money for next year. So we're going to set that money aside as well. So whatever your area charges for a fire permit. Your food license, this is the one that's either coming from your local health department or whatever your food licensing agency is called. But you want to have that food license and put that number there. In Florida, it's about $477. Some cities and some counties have a peddler permit. This is a throwback to door-to-door salesman era. But if you have to have one, then you have to have one. And I know some of the people that I work with have these things. Temporary permits, if you plan on going places where you're going to need a temporary permit, think ahead and put that in this sheet. So if you're going to go to, let's say, 2 places over the course of the next year, and it's going to cost you $125 each, put in $250. And then continue to add on every single business license or permit that you need for your area. Then we're going to get into insurance. I'm not going to go over the details here other than to explain them, but I'm just going to put in a blanket amount. Let's say we have about $1,800. General liability is if you make somebody sick. You got to have that if you're going to be selling food. This has nothing to do with the tow vehicle, and it has nothing to do with the equipment that's on your trailer or your truck or your hot dog cart. This is just you making somebody sick. Covers their liability if they go to the hospital. Commercial auto is what you need if you're going to be towing your trailer. If you buy a food truck, it's got to have commercial auto because it's mechanized. Commercial auto covers if you get into a wreck while you're towing your vehicle. Don't try to put it on your personal and just try to slip by, because if you have a wreck and you're towing your business, the insurance company will not pay. And if you injure somebody, they may not pay that either. As much as all the insurance companies want to talk about, you're in our hands and all that other nonsense they put out, their only responsibility is to the stockholders of the insurance company. They do not want to make payouts. They don't care a bit if you're going to be made whole or not. They don't want to pay you. They look for reasons not to pay you. So if you give them the opportunity by towing your vehicle on a personal policy, they're not going to pay you. And if you damage your trailer, they're not going to pay it either. So that's why you need commercial property. Now, the other two I got listed here, actually the other three, income stabilization. That is an insurance you might want to check into if you do a lot of events. And how it works is you get insurance against that event not being able to be open because of weather. And if it rains and has a downpour and the event cancels, you get covered. There's a lot more details to it than that, but it does help you whenever weather impacts your business. Health insurance is an obvious. Income from dependent properties, what that means is if you have a burger truck, for instance, and your flat top is dead, there is no repairing it, you're going to have to be closed for the day because the thing doesn't work, you can file a claim against that insurance because that piece of equipment is vital to your burgers. You can't open without it. So the insurance would cover that loss of sales. So there are more insurances than the three main ones that we talk about. Now let's get into paying you. Let's say that you want to make $100,000 a year because you work really hard and you deserve it. You can also have a fixed salary employee. Now you see here in white, the $40,000 represents what we're paying those other folks. You could actually have another person that you're paying. It would be a fixed salary. But we're just going to say it's just you, and then those other two employees that we talked about. And then you can include the payroll taxes that would go against the fixed salaries and then the minimum staffing. And this would be figured as a budget if you're, or as a variable expense as it goes up and down. And just figure out whatever that particular number would be. When I say payroll taxes, I'm talking about the FICA match that you have to have as a business for all your employees, as well as a lot of the workers' comp and unemployment premiums are based on the number of hours that are worked or the number of dollars that are put into your payroll. So you need to just figure out whatever that number is and plug it in. Now we're into more expenses. Legal, accounting. If you do a coaching service like I do for people, this is where you'd account for it. Let's say you've got a lawyer that you're going to be using a couple of times a year, going to have somebody do your taxes, and then you pay me. And then any other professional expenses, you can add those on as well. Utilities, most likely you got a cell phone. So if you're doing a cell phone at $50 a month, so it's going to be $600 a year. If you have to pay for your water, you have to go to a commissary and get that commissary receipt. How many times you go in a year, and then multiply that out. Let's say you're going to have another $1,000 there. Waste disposal, if they make you pay for getting rid of your trash, some places do charge. Electric, if you're going to be plugged in somewhere that's charging you for your electric, put in whatever that total amount's going to be. If you got to have independent internet from your cell phone, put in that amount. You can see that the propane and the gasoline are already populated in based on the stuff we did on the ops interview. And then if there's anything else that I've not thought about to go under utilities, throw them in there. Site rental, that would be where you're setting up. If you are parking in a convenience store that's charging you $400 a week, then do the math on that. Or if you're paying somebody $800 a month, put in that amount. Which that is for you sitting on a piece of property that somebody else is charging you rent. If you're going to go to a lot of events, you're going to put that down. There's a couple of events that we always do. Commissary is how much it costs you annually. So if you get lucky enough to have one that's charging you by the month, then you can put in that amount. Storage, if you park your vehicle overnight somewhere that's in a secure area, that's an independent cost, and go ahead and put that in. If you have a loan that's taken out to help pay for your equipment, or you yourself paid for the equipment, you deserve money back. So this will be a bank loan. But if you don't have a bank loan and you put in, let's say, $50,000 to get your business started, you deserve being paid back from your business. This has nothing to do with your salary. This has nothing to do with your profit. This has to do with your business entity owes you as a person a debt because you started the business. You loaned the business money. So figure out a acceptable way to pay yourself back. If you put in $50,000, you might want to pay yourself back over several years, say $1,000 a month. But the idea is that you're being made whole because before you ever started the business, you had $50,000 in the bank. So you deserve to get that $50,000 back, plus a salary for the work of your hands and the work of your brain, plus the profit that's based on the work of your hands and the work of your brain. So there's 3 ways you make money on your business, or 3 ways you have income from your business. So you pay yourself back or you pay back a loan, whichever way you do it. Banking fees, if you do a lot of depositing, you may have a bank that's charging you for the bank account that you have. If you do any kind of loyalty programs or POS systems that charge a monthly fee, put that in. Pay for your website, any of that kind of stuff. Grand total for a yearly expense. If you're leasing your equipment or you're rent to own equipment, you can place that there. Now, here's one that no one ever thinks about. If you're in any part of the country other than right near the equator, you're going to be impacted by weather. And you may want to close down for a week, a month, a couple of months. I used to close down at the end of November, and I wouldn't re-up again until the beginning of February. So I took 2 full months off because I could. But if you're not going to be able to do that, then you want to set aside money to cover it. And you want to think really, really far ahead on what is it going to take to get me through those slow months. Are you going to be totally closed like I was? And you would need enough money set aside to cover 2 months worth of no income. If you're going to be open, but you know it's going to be slow, then set aside enough money to make up the difference. So you're not struggling. So let's say you need $5,000 to cover 2 months of being closed. So you can see that right now tells me I need to do at least $207,000, but I have not paid for any of my food or anything else. So let's go into food and paper. This is a percentage. So all these will be expressed as a percentage. I recommend everybody start with a 25% food cost. Why do I recommend 25% food cost? Because I know you will not run 25%. You're most likely going to run about 33 or 34%. So I'd rather you start at 25% and end up at 33 than having you start at 33%. Like a lot of people say, yeah, 33%, a third of this and a third of that. Not how it works in business. Because if you're starting at 33% when you're sitting down and writing your recipes, guess where you are when you get out in the real world? You're around 40%. And that only leaves 60% to pay all the other bills. So start yourself at 25 and then work to hit it. The additional labor here is if you bring in somebody that you plan on bringing in only when it's busy and sending them home as soon as it slows down. That will get you the third or the fourth person you need on a food truck, but they're only working a few hours a day or a few hours a week. That's why we express it as a percentage, because if it's slow, you don't need them. But if it's busy, you do need them. So you express it as a percentage of your sales. Now we're going to talk about repair and maintenance. Even if you bought a brand new trailer, brand new food truck, it will need maintenance and it will need repairs like oil changes and filters and plugs and all those kind of things. And we all know that tires on trailers wear out quicker than they should. So you need to have money set aside. And I recommend at least 0.5%, well, not that much, 0.5% for the tow vehicle, 0.5% for the trailer, and then for the equipment inside the trailer, at least 0.5%. All of those percentages are set aside. So every single day that you're open, you're pulling out 1.5% to put into a bank account, into a savings account, so that you have money when something breaks down. So when those tires need to be changed, you got money and you're not fretting about, well, man, I got to make $600 a day to pay for 2 stupid tires. You've already got money in the bank. Cleaning supplies, office supplies, you're going to set a budget for those. Realistically, if you are being very efficient with your cleaning supplies and your office supplies, those 2 percentages will be more than enough. 0.4%, I could run a $1 million a year Burger King with that amount of budget for cleaning supplies. The same with office supplies. It's all relative to how you take care of the stuff and you don't waste it. And then marketing, you have got to market. And you're also going to have to repair stuff, your menu boards, your awning, your wrap that's on the trailer or the truck. All those things at some point are going to need to be repaired or replaced. So we might as well go ahead and start setting some money aside right now to have it. So we're not looking at the faded wrap going, man, I really ought to buy a new one, but I can't afford it right now. Money's already in the bank. So that's a 30.10% variable cost. Now the sheet does its magic. And this is telling you, if you're not including sales tax in your prices, how much you need to have in net sales. $305,181 means you need to do $1,500 a day. For the guest count, that means we need 101 guests. For the hours that we're going to be open, we need 25 people an hour. That's not too many people an hour. So you can pay yourself $100,000, just like I showed you earlier, and pay yourself back the startup cost to get your business going, and you are on the profit side when you hit $305,000. Now, I know that sounds like a really big number, but look, it's only 25 people an hour. Only 25 people an hour. So let's show you how the sheet works, and you can kind of mess around with it a little bit. Let's go back to the interview, and let's say we're going to be open 6 hours a day. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and change it to 5 days a week. Give ourselves 2 days off a week. Okay. Now look what it does to the break even. Now we had to, the total number went up because we're paying more labor. But now we only need 18 people an hour because we're open more hours a day. You know, 18 people, y'all got 18 friends on Facebook right now. We got 47 people watching this video. So 18 people in an hour is not that unreasonable. So let's see what could happen. This becomes your break even. You need to have 18 people, 19 people, if you round it up, coming to your business every single hour to generate $1,600 a day. You're open for the 200 days a year, then you are at $334,000 a year. So let's play with it a little bit more. Let's go to our service goal. The service goal, we needed, if you recall, we needed about 19 people. So let's put 19 whole people coming every single hour. That means we need to take one order every 3 minutes and 9 seconds, which is a very leisurely pace. And just imagine, hi, welcome to my food truck. Can I take your order, please? And then for the next 2 minutes and 55 seconds, you're getting an order out of somebody. No matter what your cook time is, even if you take 10 minutes to cook something, a well-done steak takes 11. So let's say you're doing well-done steaks. 11 minutes later, the food comes out. Your grill has room enough for more than one steak at a time. So in 11 minutes, if you're taking one order every 3 minutes, that means you only have a total of 4 steaks on the grill. And then every 3 minutes, or every 11 minutes rather, another steak is getting done. And then 3 minutes later, another steak is getting done, because that's how long it took to take the order. That's what food service is about, the organization and getting the food out. That's why I get so upset when people say, yeah, and people love waiting on my food. They don't care. They do care. What you don't hear is how many times that they only go to you once and never come back. Or what you don't hear is how many times they go to your business and only go when they got 45 minutes to waste. Yeah, I'll take me a 6-pack and wait on Grandpa to cook my steak. That's what happens. Food service is all about hospitality, and it's all about speed. Get the food out to people so they can get back to the life. They didn't come there to your food truck to stand around for an hour and wait on you to cook something. Have respect for the people. So let's say that you could actually put an order through or take an order every 2 minutes. So that means you're taking 30 an hour. Look what that does to your sales, and look at the profit. See, that's what kills me when people say, yeah, I sell out and people don't mind the wait. So let's say we get you up to 60, taking one order every minute, which is the goal that I set for everybody. Take one order every single minute. Look what you can do. You can put $500,000 to the bottom line. Now, of course, if you're that busy, you're going to need a little bit more labor, but still, if you paid your labor $100,000, that's $400,000 for you in profit, plus the $100,000 you were paying yourself. So what this sheet does is it helps you to establish your minimum, your break-even point. You have to do, in this scenario, $1,671 a day. So if you jump in the food truck to go out somewhere, you have to generate that kind of sales. If you don't, then tomorrow you got to generate what you fell short today. So if you only did $1,200 today, that means tomorrow's got to be a $2,000 day because you were $400 short today. But you got to know that number. And then you got to figure out what your top number could be. Let's say that you really can only take about one order every 2 minutes because it's a complex menu. That's not a problem. You're still making over $100,000. Plus, you're paying yourself $100,000. Plus, you're paying yourself back the loan you gave your business to start. That's not a bad income. It's not a bad income at all. Now, I'm going to make one more change here to give you all a little bit more realistic. Let's take out that wage because we hear so many people say, I haven't made any money yet. Okay, so we aren't paying ourselves anything. We're only living off of the money that the business is reimbursing us for the startup loan, and then we're living off of the profit. So now we're down to we need $900 a day. 10 people coming. 10 people. And if we take one order every 2 minutes, we still make $239,000. That's how important your break-even point is to you. You got to know how many people it takes to make money, and then you got to know what that dollar amount is. And if you fall short today, you got to make it up tomorrow. All right.